Welcome to episode 90 of Terese Talk. I'm your host, Terese Main. By day, I co-host an afternoon radio show on a network in New York and Pennsylvania. By nights, I'm a podcaster. If you're a woman like me who loves Jesus and just wants to serve her family and community a little bit better, you're in the right place. This time of year, parents are facing a myriad of emotions. Many have worked hard for more than a dozen years to prepare their kids to launch, and now they are leaving a giant void and heartache behind. If you've got a student heading out of the house and off to college, we've got help. Dr. Joannie DeBrito is a family and marriage therapist with more than 30 years of experience working with parents and families. She's going to help you navigate your changing home and help equip your co-ed for success in and out of the classroom. There are two main parts of the college experience: the academics and the social. Which is more important?
Well, academics are obviously important, but the truth is that in the most cases, when you ask adults to talk about their college years, if they've been to college and what was impactful, they will talk about the social issues that came up, whether they met longtime friends at college or maybe even met a spouse at college. And they will often talk about roommate experiences, etc. And so I think, kids are there for academics, but they often get a lot more out of the social experiences.
How can we really know what's going on with our college kids?
That really starts by building that relationship at home where you can have open communication. And what's helpful there is for parents to be willing to just hear and listen and not give advice or not try to defend certain points of view that their kids might disagree with. The way they learn is by being exposed to other things. Certainly, they can stay completely grounded in their beliefs and their convictions while also listening to new information, new points of view. I know that there were times when I was in college where I was faced with people who had very different ways of thinking about life, and that actually made my beliefs and values and morals even stronger. But then there were other times when I was challenged by people who were providing really good scientific information for me that I didn't know, or they were providing really good arguments about things that made me slightly change my mind. It made my faith stronger. But there were times when I had dug my heels in about some certain issue or something and had not really listened to other points of view. And it actually helped me become a better person to be able to entertain other ideas and not be afraid of them, to be challenged by them, to think about them, to ponder them, to stay strong in my beliefs, but also at times to change my opinion in a good way.
So new ideas are not the enemy.
They are not. They are not. They are the opportunity to be exposed to different cultures, different ways of doing things, and so forth. And if you are strong in your faith and your convictions and your beliefs and so forth, if someone throws an idea in that's pretty outlandish and doesn't make a lot of sense, there are plenty of examples of that in our culture today. You can really begin to have an influence on them and not argue with them in a nasty way, but just say, gosh, that doesn't make sense because of this, or even scientific data is really opposed to what you're saying there. Might want to take a look at the facts, etc. So you can have these friendly conversations and delve into topics without things becoming nasty arguments.
The influence that we have on our college kids started a long time ago. So how can we help to remind those college kids of the groundwork that was laid so many years ago?
I think it's about asking them questions before they go to college and just hearing where they're coming from, what they're thinking, and so forth. And for parents to not overreact if their kids are going a little bit outside of what they have been taught, because the truth is that their faith and their beliefs and morals have to be theirs. We cannot plant those in their brains. We can certainly be influential in their lives in terms of presenting them with the truth, but they have to ultimately make their own decisions, and God is in charge of changing their hearts if there are heart changes that need to be made. So you can ask them questions about what they believe and so forth, and also ask them questions about how they are likely to respond to people who have different points of view, and ask them how they might find it easiest to listen to someone who does have a different point of view. And most of them are going to say, if we can have a civil conversation, that will be great, which tells them I need to be civil when I'm talking with people as well.
Boy, it's scary thinking of your kids hearing all of these new
Mm-hmm.
ideas, new perspectives. And that sounds like
Yep.
maybe a parent heart issue that praying is one of the most important things that we can do for our kids.
Praying and trusting in the Lord to guide them and shepherd them and so forth. Praying for influential people in their lives at college who also know the Lord and will be able to shepherd them, disciple them, etc., when you are not able to be there, whether that be roommates or professors or staff members or whomever. There are people with strong Christian faith on all campuses, whether they be huge campuses or small campuses. There are also things like Cru, Campus Crusade, those kinds of organizations that are available for kids to seek out. And if they don't seek them out, we pray that God will provide those resources in places that are maybe very unexpected.
More than half of young adults stop going to church once they reach the age of 18. How can we encourage our kids to stick with their faith, to establish good faith habits as they're having this big change of life without nagging them about going to church?
Well, I think one of the things that I'd love to present here is a slightly different perspective about those statistics that we see about kids not going to church. I've seen some of the surveys that are given to kids, and they are usually answering the questions very honestly, but often the questions are in regard to traditional church that has not changed for maybe centuries, certainly many decades for sure, where there are very specific ways that church services are done. And very often, those kinds of ways that we have worshiped for years do not resonate with younger people. There are many, many younger people who are not going to large churches, but they are actually doing all of the things that the Bible talks about that church is about in small home communities. And they are worshiping together. They are praying together. They are reading the word together. They are being in fellowship. But the surveys that they get ask about things like, how often do you attend a church service? And to them, they may not think of their gathering as a church service. So actually, when I was working on a college campus, I saw many kids that were very much participating in what the Bible talks about as church without necessarily being in a congregation of 500 people. So I actually think that there are a lot of younger people, and the younger generation kind of gets this rap of kids aren't going to church anymore. Many of them aren't, that's true, but many of them are also doing it in a different way.
We're talking with Joannie DeBrito, who has more than 30 years of experience helping families navigate the bumps in the road of life. It's not unheard of for kids to step away from church when they transition to college. But if the groundwork has been laid, they often find their way back.
I think often they do wander back mainly because of wanting their children to be exposed to the word and to the faith. And they can certainly do that in the small home churches, but it's a little harder. It's a little bit like homeschooling, which is a great concept and which has changed over the years so much. It used to be one family with a couple of kids, and now you have whole networks and neighborhoods and communities and so forth. So it's very much like almost more like a traditional school. And so you can do that, but it is easier if you're trying to find that opportunity for your children to meet other young children who are on the same track and studying the same kinds of things and learning the same kinds of things, that they may wander back to church. But I will say that the home church communities that I have known of and am very involved in, not personally, I go to a large church, but I know a number of people who are involved in them. So I've been kind of indirectly involved, that they actually have a broad range of people. There are many people who are older who also are saying, church is important to me, but the way we've done church for so long, I've done it a long time. I'd like to try something different. So many of the home church systems that I know now that have all of those elements that church is supposed to have people who are in their 60s and 50s and 40s and young people and singles, etc.
A generation ago, you might have talked to your college kid on the phone once a week or sent letters or care packages. How much and how should we be reaching out to kids who are off at college now? I mean, you might have texted several times a day when you were, dealing with a high school senior. Is that still the norm?
I think even as a high school senior, it's way too much. There's a little bit of a collective angst in our culture, and a lot of that has been drummed up by social media and the 24/7 news cycle that makes us all on edge about all the awful things that could happen to our children. When the truth is that, yes, there are awful things in the world, but there have been since the beginning of time. We just didn't know about all of them. So it raises people's anxiety because you're hearing about every awful thing that happens in every corner of the world right now with pictures and images and people sending videos and those kinds of things. And so the rate of anxiety among all human beings has raised significantly since technology started taking over our world. So I think what we need to do is start teaching kids to be cautious and to be aware of their surroundings, but we don't want to instill in them this high anxiety and in some cases almost paranoia of the world. And we can do that by allowing them to be in the world, having things occur in their lives that are maybe uncomfortable. I'm not talking about dangerous things, but uncomfortable things where, guess what? They have to figure those things out for themselves. And that's where they develop those good coping skills. So I really discourage parents from having that kind of contact, even when their kids are in high school. And certainly when they go off to college, there needs to be minimal contact. Now, that does not mean that your child is not connected to you anymore. You can be very connected. I would say that the old idea of, talking once a week by phone is a much better idea in terms of helping kids grow into young adults than having conversations with them on a regular basis every day. It's really important in this day and age because, again, with technology and especially social media, we're just being deluged with so many messages, and it builds fear in parents about what their kids are going to be exposed to. But one of the things I want to say is that the kids who have been raised well in good homes with good grounding and in their faith and ethics and morals and values, let them learn from their mistakes. Encourage caution for yourself and for them, but don't go down the road of being paranoid and so fearful of the world. It's amazing how resilient and how bright so many of these young people are, that they can kind of swim around and make a few mistakes here and there and get a little off kilter. But if they have been pretty grounded before going to school, they tend to come back to their roots. They really do.
Is there still value in the good old fashioned college care package?
Yes, there is. And that's because there's a honeymoon phase in college, whether it's the first time a child is going off to college or they're in their third or fourth year. And it's about 6 to 8 weeks where people tend to be excited to be there, excited to be back, excited to reunite with friends and so forth. And then everyone kind of lets their guard down. And about 6 to 8 weeks into a semester or quarter, that's when a lot of roommate disputes happen and people start struggling with their professors and other staff members, et cetera. That's why they do need to maintain that connection with mom and dad and other family members. And they love care packages. They absolutely love getting them. Now, if you have just dropped off your child and your child basically said, bye, mom and dad. Don't let that door kick you in the butt on the way out. That's just them saying, hey, this is exciting. It's a new experience. I'm excited. Go away, kind of thing. But it only takes about 6 weeks for them to show up in the counseling center or in a staff office or in a residence life office saying, I really miss my mom's soup. This would be the time of year she'd make soup, or I miss my dad's hugs, or I miss, throwing the football around with my dad, or whatever it happens to be. That's when they love those care packages. And sometimes they don't even express the kind of thanks that you might be expecting, but I assure you they are appreciative.
When our student does share that something has gone wrong, whether it's academically or socially, how much should we step in? Because we want to be supportive, but we don't want to
Mhm.
become a helicopter parent.
Exactly. You definitely don't. If you have been a helicopter parent previously, this is when you kind of want to let that helicopter stay grounded. And so what you want to do is the best way to be supportive is to say, hey, there are a lot of resources on campus. So a really good place to start is with the residence life staff, because the residence life staff actually gets to know their students very well because they're living among them, or they are supervising people such as resident assistants, student resident assistants who are living among them. So they learn about the community, they learn about the things that are going on, the problems, the concerns, the strengths, the weaknesses, and so forth. And so they're in a great place to advise a student if a student is having difficulty, or even if the student is having difficulty with a faculty member. That can be a really good place to start because they are hearing so much from other students and have heard things about different faculty members that can be really helpful and gracious and wonderful, and those that can be a little bit more of a challenge, or staff members that could be helpful or not so helpful. They know those resources on campus and they can provide a referral for your students. So now their support system has been expanded from you to residence life and to anyone else that the residence life staff refers them to.
Our kids are not the only ones who are going through a massive change with a transition to college. How can we learn to release, let go in a healthy way?
Such a good question. I'll just share a very quick story that after years and years of talking with parents every weekend, what we call the weekend of welcome, about, this is hard for parents, it's hard for kids, and the counseling door is open. Most of the time, kids were not coming in, but it was parents that were coming in, just very teary. And how do I do this? And after years of that, I had the experience of letting one of my daughters off at school in another state. I still get choked up when I think about this. There are tears in my eyes right now because I still remember it very clearly. And I dropped her off and helped her move in, all this kind of thing. She went to all of the little meetings she was supposed to go to. I went to my meetings. I did all the things that I had done for people before, but this time I was a parent. And I had driven her out there from the state of Colorado, and I was driving down the road, and I am not kidding you, about 10 minutes down the road, I burst out in tears, and I could not drive. I was crying so hard. I pulled over on the side of the road, and I was laughing and crying at the same time. I'm laughing at myself going, Joni, you know this. Intellectually, you know this. Stop it. This is ridiculous. Your daughter is in great hands. She's going to a great program. She was going to a great nursing school. She got a great education. But you have to let yourself grieve. It is really hard. It's a really emotional, it's not just sad tears like I'm going to miss my daughter, but it's happy tears. This is so cool. This is a new adventure in her life. So I pulled over and I cried for about 10 minutes. And then I thought, I can have a lot more time with my husband because she was the last one to leave home. And wow, this is going to be cool. And then I started thinking about the cool things. And the rest of the ride home from the state of Indiana to the state of Colorado was really fun. But I had to let myself grieve. And I encourage parents to do that. It's a really touching time. And we have remained close. She is now almost 40 years old. So it's been a long time since that happened. But I still remember it as if it was yesterday. And I'm grateful that we were able to leave her and allow her to have a college experience but stay connected as well.
So if you have a friend who's just dropped a kid off at college, maybe they need a care package.
That would be really great. At least a phone call to say, how are you doing? it's nice to check in with your friends.
This time of year can be a big change for college kids and the families they leave behind. I hope this conversation has given you some help to navigate it with confidence and grace. If you've enjoyed this episode of Terese Talk, be sure to subscribe. And if you really loved it, consider making a gift to Family Life, the ministry this podcast is a part of. Just go to familylife.org and find out more about what we do. Did you know Family Life offers a variety of podcasts? Get up to date with Family Life news or enjoy some family time with Family Life Kids. There's The Calling, a Family Life original podcast that encourages those who lead our churches, and 10 Minutes With, an interview program with faith-based artists and speakers. They're all free and on demand at familylife.org/podcast.